Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is going to be interesting to see how we work this. This is YouTube. I have no idea where this sound's coming from because I've got the sound. Okay, anyway. Welcome to the show. Apologies for being late and apologies for, well, everything. And that just goes for the normal show, much less what we're doing today. I appreciate all you guys being here. And we have a live studio audience as well.
Thank you.
As you know, we're coming to you live from Montana at Camp Ponderosa. This is the event hasn't technically started. It's what in the evening is
6 p.m.
is the kind of the kickoff of the event. But this is kind of the early access kind of thing. And we've been here 2 days since I came.
Some of us have been here
you were for about
2 weeks.
Yeah. But it's been a great time meeting everybody, meeting people who are in the chat on a regular basis, but also, being able to hang out with Don. This is the first time you and I had met, and this is not the first time that Joe, but Watcher is off camera, of course, and it's the first time we met as well. So it's always great kind of going back to the idea of building the connective tissue within the community and understanding that, just because you know somebody on the internet doesn't mean you really know them. You need to kind of create those, in-person bonds so that you can, solidify those friendships in real life. We tend to think the internet is real, but in reality, it's just the internet. That being said, we were live on the internet. Joe, how are you doing today?
I am splendid. I wish you could all see this because in front of us, there's a giant collection of windows and the sun is coming up over the mountains and it's just absolutely gorgeous here. We've got a great facility. We've got a lot of great things planned. We have Pastor Joe Fox of Viking Preparedness is in the area and he'll be here tonight giving us a speech. And then we have a whole weekend full of activities planned. We're going to be doing our show here live also on Monday. And then on Saturday night, we're going to try to do another one live. And if Watcher could stop distracting me while I'm talking, that would be fantastic. But anyway, welcome. We're glad to have you guys here. And we're looking forward to a great weekend here. Thanks to our partners at Shield. I do want to point out a hilarious shirt that they have here. Not really hilarious, but really I think a great message on the shirt. So it's a Mountain Partisan brand, right? We got a cool shirt here. But the best part is what it says on the back, and they'll have these here on site this weekend. Do not fear the mountains. Fear those who defend them. Amen. Amen. So, hey, welcome to the show.
Unlike the show I should be able to monitor the chat here. So if you've got questions or anything in the chat, absolutely put them here. And now that we've got some chat going, Don, say hello to the folks.
Morning, chat. How are you all doing? I apparently don't get to be asked how I am today, so I'm horrible, and it is the worst thing ever. Now, this place is wonderful. If you can make it here for any future events, you absolutely should. It is impossible to describe. No matter how much you try, it is not as awesome as this place is.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
And the people here are all really nice, too.
Yeah, you know what? We want to kind of mention the folks who run this place, the Northwest Montana Veterans Food Pantry. They have been very gracious in allowing us to use the facility. They're fantastic people, veterans in Northwest 5 years, and they're taking care of them and getting them fed, housed, and getting them access to resources that they need. So a little bit later in the show, we'll be dropping some links to their website so that you have the ability to make donations and do things to support them for supporting us. A great charity. Check it out, Northwest Montana Veterans Food Pantry.
Very good. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and get into the topics for today.
I'm trying to ask Ron.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting that Ron is here. Hey, Ron, I'm glad you could join us.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Nice to see Don.
Where is he? I don't see him here. Oh, wait, Ron is not here.
Ron was invited, so.
I was. Hey, Joe, that shirt is really good, but it's miswritten on the back there. It needs to be written in Pushtune.
Right on. Ron lives in the mountains too, just so you know.
Yeah, 100%.
Different mountains.
All right, go ahead, guys. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started here. Today's show, we're talking Israel v. Iran. And so that really kind of gets to what. So we will be talking about what has happened since the last show, the information that's come out, the assassinations, all that stuff is not new, but ultimately what is new is the information about how they killed that guy. So we'll be going into that and what we think could potentially come out of that and what that will mean for us here. And then we're also talking about the real
domestic violent extremists.
Yes, I'm trying to say two words at one time.
You might be surprised who they are, but they also have 3-letter initials.
Well, I'm not gonna put any roses on anybody with today, but we're going to talk about what is really happening as far as domestic extremism, and it's shockingly not the people that the Fed say it is. So we'll get into that. All right, let's go and look at our odds and ends. The first thing we're going to talk about today is England, right? And so we probably could have talked England significantly on the last show, but there's been so much going on in the world. There are domestic problems. It's kind of hard for us to get excited about it, but ultimately, England is an important country to the U.S. If any country is important to the U.S., it's probably England, not just because they are another powerful country and an ally, but because there is a cultural kind of shared heritage between us and them. And I think it's important for us to realize if it can happen to them, it can happen to us.
Absolutely.
And so, you want to just give an overview of what's in the news, and then we're going to hit this piece from Carl Benjamin that kind of talks about what his take is.
Absolutely. So there was a stabbing attack, and we pointed this out when it first happened. Someone stabbed a bunch of children. I believe that we're up to 14 have been stabbed, 9 were killed, the rest were injured. And what happened was immediately when it came out, the first thing the police said is, we have no idea what this guy's motive is, but we know it's not terrorism. That was kind of an indicator of how it was going to go, right? Turns out it was indeed terrorism, and it was indeed a gentleman from another part of the world who conducted the stabbing. So justifiably so, Brits were upset that this was allowed to happen, and some unrest is occurring in the streets in response to that. Folks are actually taking to the street, as well as should. People are taking to the streets to try and force government action on it. Now they may have gone a little bit far with lighting mosques on fire and such, but emotions run high when children are involved. If no one will protect our children, we're not doing our job as followers of God, or even as men in general, right? So.
So you got any thoughts on this before we go into this?
As much as it seems like they're going over the top, it's worth, when they're burning down mosques, it's worth remembering that the past 5 or so years has been the destruction of basically every major church in Europe by way of fire.
Right.
And that the same grouping of people will say that are performing these stabbings and acid attacks and on and on and on.
If you know, you know.
Right. They're the exact same people that are burning down churches. And it may not be the most upstanding and moral thing to do, but the enemy gets to vote on the rules of engagement. And that vote has been this kind of violence. So I understand at minimum.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely one of those kind of things that culturally I would be upset if they weren't kind of turning out the way they are. But so Carl Benjamin, if you don't know him, AKA Sargon of Akkad, he's kind of a big figure on the internet right wing in the UK. Of course, they would call him far right.
And they do.
And they do on a regular basis.
If you wonder why we keep looking that way, we're projecting the show on the wall over there.
Yeah. So this is so normally I'm looking at my screen and I can see what's going on through StreamYards, but we don't have that because StreamYards is giving us feedback through my iPad, but we can see it over here. So we'll be looking that way. Actually, let me do this. I can just open it up. Bear with me for a second.
Live editing. That's
content
on the internet.
Don, you did have before. I think let's introduce Carl Benjamin a little bit.
Sure. So Carl started the Sargon of Akkad account on YouTube back in 2013-ish.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time.
Gamergate really is where he came out of.
Exactly. Spent a lot of time discussing feminism, Anita Sarkeesian, the impacts that was having on gaming. That entire situation eventually evolves into Gamergate. Shortly after that, he had a political run for MP over in England.
UKIP party.
It did not go amazingly, but it did produce some amazing quotes like, "I wouldn't even rape you," which I think at this point he wants gone, but I still find it hilarious. From there, a lot of the platforms went after him right about this time, so he went quiet for, I don't know, about a year. Started the Lotus Eaters podcast, got together with a lot of really good guys, and they started to put out a really good product over there, doing lots of social and political commentary, covering both news of the day in general, but very specifically Europe in a more in-depth fashion. We, as Americans, we often take the headlines when it comes to all the political discussion, and I think they were kind of right to say, hey, we're being overlooked in a real commentary kind of way that's not just whatever the BBC is putting out. And that, I think, brings us about to that.
Yeah, so go ahead, watch it.
Can we explain the incident?
I'm getting, well, that's what he
I just did.
Yeah, so let me read what Carl wrote here. And so this is a tweet from him saying, "These are my thoughts on why Britain is exploding. More murder victims will be made, more fingers will be pointed. The country will spiral out of control because the people at the wheel can never bring themselves to admit they were wrong." This is a big problem in England.
Absolutely.
Not just wrong to hold the hateful attitude that they have towards their own people, land, and history, but wrong about human nature itself. People are different. Cultures are incompatible. Not all things can be managed under the liberal sky. The longer they persist in this delusion, the more the malignant reason that they began this project becomes revealed. It was all out of self-loathing for their own cultural peculiarities. It makes them feel disgusting, inadequate, and trapped to be considered a product and part of England. They feel that they are covered in a metaphysical slime that won't come off, gluing them down to this place in time, holding them back from fully realizing themselves as sophisticated global nowhere citizens who have transcended the old world of humanity while they remain merely English. They cannot think well for themselves. So in petty anger, they take their revenge upon their countrymen.
So we had a long discussion about this last night over cigars and whiskey, where for 1,000 years, Europe was the bulwark of Christianity against Muslim invasion. And then all of a sudden, sometime in the last 20 years, we're like, let's change direction completely. Maybe we got it all wrong. And this is the inevitable outgrowing of that, right? Bringing in an culture that wants to subjugate you, and then being surprised when said culture attempts to subjugate you. It's a little odd to me, a little odd.
I mean, ultimately, one of the things that he hits on here, and I think is something that we all need to kind of look at, is cultural incompatibility. Now, this hasn't been as big a problem in America because America was always like, listen, there is, in order for you to be successful truly here, you have to assimilate. You have to, you could hold on to some of your heritage like the Italian Americans did, but they did so in a very Italian American way, right? It's something completely new. And don't tell Italians that American pizza is pizza, because they will disagree with you.
You know what? Now that it's been brought up, I have to derail the show for just a moment, because last night I was forced to do something completely against my will by Washer. There was pineapple pizza in my vehicle, and I paid for it.
No.
This injustice shall not stand.
No, Hunch paid for it.
Oh, you know what? There we go. That's my out. Hunch paid for that one pizza.
That's right.
We're good. I'm all right. But it was in my car, and I feel dirty now.
Yeah, it really reeked, and we could tell.
I made Scott carry it to the car because I could not.
Yeah,
that is a reasonable answer, pineapple. Just so
but anyway, so Sargon of Akkad, I think you can argue with a lot of the things he says. I don't co-sign him probably about 15% of the time, but at the same time, this one, I think he's hit the nail right on the head. As you can tell from his writings, he is a 10-pound brain kind of guy. So if you like that kind of cultural commentary, definitely check him out. I highly recommend his Starship Troopers video.
Yeah.
That is probably the crowning gem of his corpus of knowledge that he's put out there, and goes into the whole service guarantee citizenship aspect. So anyway, guys, let's just real quick, let's go around and Watcher, before do you have any thoughts on this? You're here in the room. Just because you're not on camera.
I'm not sure I will actually kind of get the monitor. I know I'm a little way away, but
as we were talking about this last night, we discussed essentially the only path that Britain has in order to try and remain British. And various things have been said, but I think we all agree that the only path forward for them, if they want to maintain their culture in any way, shape, or form, is to become essentially a deportation machine. Like, rework most of their military and security forces to dump people on foreign beaches.
Yeah. So, I mean, and this kind of actually, this is something that's a little more in line with the problem we have. Joe, thoughts?
Well, my thought is exactly what I said before. It's a cultural incompatibility. There's a reason why we spent 1,000 years holding back the hordes, and we're reaping that whirlwind. It's exactly what's happening. Is why we were holding them back in the first place. So it's the inevitable outcome.
It's a product of two things. One, everything that Joe just said, and two, at some point the West as a whole stop defending itself. On any level, which Carl rightly points out in the self-loathing portion of that writing. There's absolutely nothing that England will defend as being English and good and positive. And if you want to see someone expose that regularly, that person is Carl. I watch him ask basically every British politician, what is something good about England? And the answer is always immigration. That's not a good thing about England, right? That's
the interesting thing is that I've heard two answers to this question. It's like, don't the domestic Aboriginal population of England deserve protection? Yeah. And the two things that I hear said most often are there are no domestic Aboriginal people of England because they are French people who killed off all those people, yeah. and so we're all immigrants to England. And then the other thing is ultimately, well, that's not the same thing. These are not, our culture is not one that needs to be protected. We've subjugated everybody else.
Exactly.
And so that goes back to that self-loathing, right?
Absolutely.
There are Scots right now, their heads are spinning because you just said that. The Scottish people like, hey, that.
Hey, I'm here to tell you, they've been foot soldiers for the empire for many hundreds of years. So I don't know that they can just pop into the chat all of a sudden like they haven't always been there. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to connect this to is there is another place where you're seeing popular, how should we say?
Resistance?
Well, I was going to say popular organization for mass deportation, and that is in the United States. So it'll be interesting to see if Trump is elected and he's able to bring that policy about, if then England then kind of wises up. But something tells me that won't happen.
Right. Our next story is somewhat of a deportation.
It isn't. Well, it's an importation, and it's import.
Well, some people were deported from Russia. Some people were deported from the U.S.
That's right. So our next story here is Russian assassin Vladimir Krasikov walks free as part of a historic prisoner swap with the U.S. Guys, I mean, this is the diplomatic breakthrough of the century.
So, if my name was Donald Trump and I was about to become president, I would give Gershkovich the intelligence medal as soon as I came in, whether or not he was actually an American spy, but just to rub it in the Russians' faces, right? Oh, no, he wasn't a spy, but he got an intelligence medal as soon as we got him back. I would do that, but we made another historically bad trade of people. I am glad to report that Paul Whelan is back in the U.S. If you guys remember, there was quite a bit of controversy when the Biden regime got Brittany Griner back and left Paul Whelan there. Who has been there for years. And I'm glad to see that. This is a wrong that's been righted. Unfortunately, we paid a ridiculous price for it.
Yeah, despite the fact that that we will probably continue to make fun of this for some time, I do believe there's some absolute good in getting some of these guys.
Absolutely, 100%.
Does anyone want to go over how Paul got caught over there in the first place? Do we know?
Well, real quick,
Yeah.
What's your kind of initial takes on this?
This is the continued Obama diplomacy, right? Make the worst prisoner trades, make the worst. I mean, this is going to sound like Trump speed. The worst deals, just unbelievably bad. And it is unsurprising, if still disappointing. And there's not a lot of point, in my opinion, of continuing to hammer every pejorative that I can think of to describe this, but just assume every horrible word you've ever heard is running through my mind, because it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, we have some deep criticism for this. There was some good.
Ironically, it's not the worst deal of the day.
I think
But anyway.
that's the feedback.
Yeah, Ron, go ahead.
Well, no, I just want to point out, I think it was a great trade because we learned Vladimir Putin speaks excellent Spanish. When he greeted the family of the deep undercover, the children of the deep undercover couple, who've never been to Russia, didn't even know they were Russian, don't speak Russian, they speak Spanish and English, and all of a sudden, like, oh shit! So Vlad met him and spoke Spanish. I think that was impressive, and once again, he owned the administration and Kamala and her word salad. I wonder what kind of dressing she uses on her salad.
Something unbound by
What
what
has been.
Yes. You know, the real power of diplomacy is knowing that the power diplomacy has
Is diplomacy.
in diplomacy.
That's right.
Man, she's
God,
I
yeah.
can't wait.
Breathtaking.
Can't wait.
All right, let me read a little bit about this story here. So basically, today, 3 American citizens and 1 American green card holder were unjustly imprisoned in Russia. This is a quote. Real quick, I want to make sure I got it. Yeah, Biden. So this is a Biden quote. Today, 3 American citizens and 1 American green card holder who were unjustly imprisoned in Russia are finally coming home. Paul Whelan, Evan Gershkovich, Alsu Karamashev, and Vladimir Karabursa. Wow, thanks, John. We remember all those still wrongfully detained and held hostage around the world. You know, the funny thing was the criticism when Biden said Trump should have got them out during Trump's, but you know he.
But literally half of them were not in custody
During Trump's time.
administration.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so we're going to so who did the Russians get, right? So the 2 names that we're looking at here, basically on the Russian side, the Russians were exchanged for a group of persons who acted in the interest of foreign states to the detriment of the security of the Russian Federation, citing the FSB. In total, the deal involved 24 prisoners and the cooperation of 6 countries to accomplish. So Vladislav Klyushin, a Russian national sentenced last year for nearly a decade in prison after being found guilty by a federal jury in Boston of hacking into, he's a hacker, right?
He's a hacker.
You know, credit card fraud, things like this. So, I mean, Russian criminals, but I don't know that they are, you know, so much.
Who do they keep telling us are the biggest threat to our elections? Russian hackers. Hey,
hackers.
let's let them all go just before an election.
This is almost like some kind of Russian collusion deal.
Almost like Russian collusion.
You know, in time for the word salad from Kamala Harris. Another guy, Roman Seleznev, the son of a member of the Russian parliament. He's a prolific credit card thief. So yes, definitely somebody, trading, I guess. Let's see. But one of these guys was like actually an assassin, I thought.
Well, it was actually that was one that we worked out to have him released by the Ukrainians.
Oh, that's right.
He had killed a bunch of Chechen fighters in Ukraine, but that's where it said that there were more countries involved in the deal. Ukraine was one of those countries.
Germany was one of the countries. Yeah. Apparently, everybody's saying that Germany got the worst deal ever. from this. Donald Trump, this is a Truth Social post from Donald Trump. So when are they going to release the details of the prisoner swap with Russia? So this is prior to this coming out. Are we also paying them cash? Are we giving them cash? Are we releasing murderers, killers, or thugs just because we never make good deals at anything? It's almost like you would memorize this, Joe. Right? But especially hostage swaps, our negotiators are always an embarrassment to us. I got back many hostages and gave the
I've had so many hundreds and even thousands.
because we never any cash. To do so is bad precedent for the future. That's why it should be, or this situation will get worse and worse. You know what? At least you can tell that Donald Trump writes his own posts. You know, whereas that statement from Biden has never come through his lips. That's for 100% sure. All right. Anything else on this, or more generally about some of these deals that have been happening?
Again, they're just terrible deals. We're trading active, malevolent actors for folks who are journalists who may or may not have been taking photos of things they shouldn't. That's journalism, right? And I just think that we're getting the bad end of the deal, as we always do.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you just wreck it all?
I said that. What do you want?
Sorry, Scott just dropped microphones to the floor, so that was really loud, Chad.
Yeah.
You know, say love you.
This is what happens when you let officers touch things.
We had a third one.
I know we're gonna talk real quick on that. We have a third on the end, but we don't have any link for it. Sorry, watcher. But you know, we talked the other day on the show about Venezuela and the kind of deteriorating situation there. It's still ongoing, though it seems like it's stabilized a little bit.
It's kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, because of the kind of the crackdown that's come from the Venezuelan government. But one of the things that we back up the Maduro.
Yeah, 23 aircraft arrived from Cuba, containing members of a special forces battalion from Cuba, and they are now on the street and patrolling. But they're not wearing Cuban uniforms, but they did come out of the Cuban compound. So they're traditionally, if you want to really crack down hard on populace, you don't use local troops. You bring folks in from other parts of the country. We saw this in Tiananmen Square. We see the Russians do this quite frequently, bringing in Chechens as an enforcer arm in other parts of their country. So this is just more of the Bolivarian, I guess, alliance, bringing in outside troops to crush a rebellion. So watch for an increase in violence now that the Cubans are in country and on the street. And again, don't forget, there's at least a battalion, but I think more of Iranian Republican Guard Corps troops in the area.
No,
That pretty much covers it.
Well, speaking of violence between Elon Musk and Maduro, as Maduro challenged Elon Musk to a fist fight because he says that X is basically trying to tear down their regime.
Yeah, so I think that'd be a great fight. My money is on Elon, because if Elon connects, it's over for Maduro. Then Maduro sits around smoking a lot of cigars, so it's probably going to be a rough fight.
Well, so Elon accepted I can't remember exactly how he put it, something along the lines of, I'm going to bring you back to the U.S. on a donkey or something like that. I mean, it was vintage of Elon. I was like, go ahead.
I got nothing. You're the one with the story. I don't know.
I told you the story twice already.
You told me this
story.
You told me the story.
I thought you could pick it up.
So yeah, there's Elon Musk and Maduro. If Maduro was actually a good leader, he would just completely ignore Elon Musk's comments. But like this, you better stay on your side of the street. You better stay on your side of the street, and we'll see.
Yeah, Elon basically said, so Maduro actually went out to some of his forces and
You
the one that's broadcasting.
Yeah.
Can they hear us?
There we go.
Oh, yeah, we're back there. All right. Sorry.
Live show.
Yeah, sorry, chat. It's this is we're learning as It says, instructing them to keep Elon Musk out at all costs. The donkey dictator is delusional enough to think that Elon is going to personally show up and give him a thrashing. This is the problem. That guy.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
We won't say who.
Elon responded to this tweet from a guy that we're not going to promote. And he said, I'm coming for you. Rocket emoji, bomb emoji. And then he says, I want you to get Mo on a donkey. Donkey emoji. So, yes, Elon Musk is responding in the spirit of which it deserved.
Yeah, well, and Elon Musk is sitting in his office laughing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Meanwhile, Maduro is running outside telling the guards, "Don't let that guy in. I'm gonna go talk some more trash. Don't let him in." Funny.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyway, so the irony is that this idiot who posted this got community noted, but and it's just the fact that Elon is enjoying it. I think it's funny, and Maduro's a complete clown. Ron, what's your kind of take on the whole Maduro thing now that it's not going to be a civil war?
Well, he's, Elon and him are trolling one another. Elon's obviously a much better troller than Maduro, but it bothers me that a lot of the Venezuelan opposition, resistance, whatever you want to call them, are looking to the United States to please send in the Marines, please liberate us from this, because we're disorganized and we can't find our rear ends with both hands. I'm watching my language because I don't know who's in the audience. I wouldn't want to burn any young ears or anything like that. So
there are no former CIA agents in the audience.
You're also safe on the young side.
ha 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 ha. We're not agents, we're officers, dummy.
Yes, Ron. Yes, Ron.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, then you're not a former Marine. You're an ex-Marine. How, it's the same difference, dude.
Ron, I will fix bayonets as I come up your road.
Oh, yeah, I've seen your lug. It ain't gonna hold your bayonet.
So I see a pretty interesting question from Rumble Chat. Schley asks, was his first election legit?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, none of it. Has anything been legit since Chavez came in power?
So there are two things.
No.
Number one, you never ask if a socialist election was legit because they were not. And number two, Anthony Blinken, or Blinky, as we like to call him, put out a tweet yesterday about how election integrity is important. The voters of Venezuela have spoken, and Maduro is stealing an election. And I thought, of all of the administrations in the world who should be talking about the will of the people and stealing an election, the Biden administration is probably the very last one who should be out making comments like that.
Yeah, but what do we know?
What kind of voting machines are they using in Venezuela?
No. In Venezuela, they're using paper ballots now because that's all they can afford. They can't even.
Yeah, they made that former currency.
All right, so that's about all we have on that. You got any final thoughts on Venezuela? Yeah,
It's been a disaster for decades.
Yeah.
It's not getting
yeah,
better.
100%. All right, I think let's go ahead and let's talk real quick about what we're going to be doing out here with the event, and you can chat a little bit about tactical wisdom if you would.
All right, so tonight we're going to have a speech by Pastor Joe Fox and a welcome from Brandon, the CEO of Shield Arms. And then we're just going to have a social event right in here where folks can hang out and mix with the folks from Viking Preparedness, Shield Arms, and Future Conflict. We'll be here having a couple of glasses of water and other soft drinks of your choice. And we're going to just kind of hanging out, getting to know each other, having a good time. Tomorrow we're going to have all kinds of speeches and classes and things going on all day. Time together, hanging out in a beautiful outdoor setting. I'm going to take folks on a ruck, whoever wants to come. We'll throw on our backpacks and go walk a ridge line and walk down to a pretty picturesque creek and have a nice walk back. I'm going to bring along my dedicated medic. He doesn't know it. He's sitting over there writing notes, but he's coming along to take care of folks along the way because it is a little bit strenuous. We are in the mountains, and then we're going to have a whole bunch of speakers all afternoon. Good food, good friends, lots of vendor tables set up by our friends like Exumbers Designs, Vigilante Engineering, Father Abraham. A lot of great names in our space are going to be coming out and spending time with people, getting to know each other, and having a good time. Sunday's gonna be the same way. We're gonna have I'm gonna open it with a morning prayer session, and we're gonna have a few more speakers on Sunday and a lot of just fellowship and time together. So if you're in the area or even just a little bit outside of the area, come on over and see us. We'll get you squared away. We got plenty of camping room. The best part is this, where we're sitting together in the same room, having a conversation and getting to know each other. You can't build trust without face-to-face meetings, and we can't build community without trying our very best to do so. So we're going to make it happen. Come on out. Check out tactical-wisdom.com. You can find my books and some shirts there. For those of you in the room, there's a whole pile of shirts and books right over there. So feel free to buy some for me. So I got gas money to get home. Anyway, welcome, and I hope you guys come and check out our stuff.
Yeah, very good.
I have a show that when I'm not in Montana, I'm back to run. It is Monday through Friday. It is actually right before Future Conflict. So while you were sitting around for them being late every morning, there will probably be
Thanks,
a
Don.
stream that has been completed for at least 30 minutes that you can watch until these guys get around to going live.
What he's saying is he never has an excuse not to come on the show.
Never is sitting right there.
I'm 23 hours away from where I live. Other people had excuses not to be here. I mean, all right.
Hey, that's right.
So Ron wants you to know that he did send the Grizzly Bears a warm up about hikes. Enjoy that.
Thanks, buddy.
Who knew they had assets in the area? I guess the feds are here.
They're launching right from Ron's helipad. If you know, you know, Mike Bennett, right? All right.
All right, let's jump into our main topic for today. We're really looking. Let's be honest. We said what 72 hours. That was about 48 hours ago. So, and then probably within the next day, we will start to see kinetic Iran on Israel action. So we're going to kind of set that up. We don't know what it's going to look like yet. I always thought that the best bet for Iran was to go asymmetric against Israel, hitting Israel, not in Israel. But the problem with that is ego, right? They want to be seen as the power in the Gulf, and in order to do that, they've got to go kinetic in a kind of classical way. And we've seen how that's worked out for them, and it hasn't been good.
I don't know if it's going to be as bad for them as we all think it is. It depends on how they do. If they all get in big long lines of trucks and drive in there, then yeah, they're all going to get. But if they just go up to the border and go, all right, everybody go over there and do the thing that the Middle East is very good at doing, forget how bad, this could go very bad for Israel.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is, and we're going to kind of go into the assassination attempt on Hania, but Israel is absolutely showing themselves to be the kind of the fictional badasses everybody thinks they should be, but
Well, they're good at a couple of things. They're good at air operations. They're really exceptionally good at special operations.
Right.
Well, I guess not special, covert.
Covert,
Special
yeah,
operations. They've had a few bad mistakes, like the naval commando insertion that went bad. But they are pretty good at covert ops like this. And I want to point out something about the potential Iranian response. At sundown tonight begins Shabbat or Sabbath, so that would be a very symbolic time for an attack.
Yeah.
So there it is. And I just imagine on this bombing that we're about to talk about, I like to imagine that they put it on his toilet, so that when he sat down, he started to hear some traditional Jewish music and thought, oh, and then things went.
Well, the interesting thing is that the guy died, I guess, at 2 a.m, and him and his bodyguard died. Why were they in such close proximity at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Well, there are some bodyguards who are really close to their clients at night. Just put out there. Not this one, but there are some.
All right. Killed by bomb placed in Tehran guest house 2 months ago in astounding Mossad penetration of IRGC security. I mean, literally, this is like the KGB sneaking into the White House and killing somebody in a Lincoln bedroom. Is what it's almost analogous.
That's like poorly written headlines. It sounds like the attack happened 2 months ago. But the
Right.
bomb was placed
2 months ago. Right. New details have emerged in the Israeli covert assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Hania. while he was staying in Tehran to attend the country's presidential inauguration events. Ooh, that's even
worse. It's even worse.
Yeah, that's symbolic. Iran and Hamas backers considered Hania to be essentially akin to a top foreign diplomat or a head of state. And so at times, Hania was known to travel openly in places like Qatar, Iran, or other Gulf states. And yet the bombing that took his life is being widely viewed in Iran as a utterly humiliating security failure. For the elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is hosting the Hamas leader. So basically, this is literally saying well, Mossad is as good as you thought they were, and the IRGC is really all just a bunch of hype.
Yeah, I pointed out that after the week they've been having, there are a lot of sketchy dudes in the Middle East looking at their ceiling every 5 minutes, wondering when a bomb's about to come through it, or looking behind doors and looking underneath the couch to make sure there's no pressure plates under there. And you know what? That's as it should be. There was a comment made yesterday that Nasrallah vows retaliation. Let me ask this question. And Mossad, I know we get our check from you on Monday, but I have a question for you. Why does Nasrallah continue to draw breath, right? Why does that man still occupy this planet? Anyway.
Well, I get the feeling that he's probably looking over his shoulder as well now too. And that may be part of why we saw, 24 hours after the assassination, Hezbollah opened up with a rocket attack, a very heavy rocket attack against North Israel, most of which were intercepted by Iron Domes. So let's see. The bomb had been hidden approximately 2 months ago in the guest house by Middle Eastern officials. The report continues the guest house is run and protected by the IRGC, and as part of the Nishat in the upscale neighborhood of northern Tehran. Let's see. So no doubt they are spiking. This is the Mossad, of course. No doubt they are spiking the football and want the Iranians in the world to know their astounding level of success they had in penetrating the IRGC. There's some imagery that would go with that potentially.
But thanks, Scott. But
I'll be here all weekend.
Yeah, but this is actually just a hallmark of Mossad's operations. They've got people inside of every little group that operates throughout the Middle East, which is both good and bad because sometimes the Mossad does things to benefit others who might want that information, and sometimes they don't. So we're not gonna be 100% Mossad cheerleaders, but in this particular case, nice thing done.
Well, speaking of special agent officers,
not agents.
Ron, what's your take on this? I mean,
agents work for officers.
Yeah, this is a pretty astounding success, worthy almost of a movie plot. Don't you kind of agree?
Definitely. It's impressive. Of course, the unanswered questions are: how did they trigger the weapon? How did they know, when he was in the vicinity of the explosive device? So lots of exciting unknowns. But yeah, good op.
Yeah, I mean, so apparently it was detonated remotely. So I mean, this is like literally, from the other side of the world, Israel can take their trash out essentially. So very, very CIA-esque, if you will.
Right.
No, I would disagree. It's very Mossad. We are not that capable. Sorry.
Well, we were droning people from the little trailers in Nevada.
That's
drones
different.
landing in Pakistan.
Well, we sure smoked that janitor in Afghanistan.
And his family. Yeah, I know. Never, but it was. We're not that imaginative or flexible because we're not like the Mossad, which is dealing with the existential threat to the existence of their nation. To us, it's a game, and we're not very good.
Well, Ron, they did come up with. You're speaking of imagination. They were the inventors of the exploding cell phone.
Yeah, that was actually a big technique of theirs for a long time, swapping out the guy's cell phone. He answers the call, and they say, this is the Mossad, and then his cell phone blows up. Very targeted assassination, only gets that guy, not everyone in the room, but that gets a little bit harder to do once it's been done once or twice. So.
Yep.
What's your kind of take on this, Tom?
Well, I'm interested in the unanswered question portion that Ron was talking about, and given Mossad's history with cell phones, if that guy was carrying, it's great proximity sensor for, how do we know when you're in the room? Well, that thing's probably in your pocket, and
Or his bodyguards. It probably worked off his bodyguards. So.
either one.
If only there were a way in modern world that they could monitor everything you do.
Right, and your location. And
Who knew that these screens from Big Brother would get small enough that we could camera in our pockets?
isn't that great?
I just want to know if the MSM has yet come out to bemoan the loss of another austere religious scholar.
Well, this is
That's an important
Right.
question.
So we actually talked about this. Scott and I talked about this with Kay from Combat Studies Group on the roundtable the other night. That it doesn't necessarily have to be you. You actually brought this up. It doesn't necessarily have to be you that they're tracking. So I'm betting that Hanaya probably didn't have his own phone, but his bodyguard had a phone. And once those two people have been linked together, all they have to do is track the other guy's phone. And if there's anyone you meet regularly, if those two phones get in close proximity, building a pattern of life,
Right.
It's targetable information. As General Hayden once famously said, we kill people based on metadata. And if the metadata links, you're probably going to get killed alongside the person whose
Right.
metadata you're linked to. Scott, can you move your phone over there?
Yeah.
I don't want you to get hurt because of me.
That's the man with his phone sitting right in front
I
of him.
don't want you to get hurt because of me.
It's collateral damage. It is what it is. Let's
Just in
see.
case. Here.
That's right. All right. So the Islamic Republic Supreme Leader Ayatollah Al Khamenei was reportedly awakened in the middle of the night. There you go. It's that 2 a.m. Wake up call. He issued an order to strike Israel in retaliation. He's shaking his fist at the sky. According to 3 Iranian officials, I love how they're very specific in their reporting here. Let's see. Is that worse? Let's keep going. It's anyone's guess as to whether or how the retaliation will come, which is exactly what we were talking about. Real quick, guys, let's kind of go around the horn. What do you think is going to be the opening salvo of retaliation?
Well, let's remember that this last one that was over 100 rockets and drones was because Israel killed a man in Syria. This time they killed a man in downtown Tehran in one of the most well-protected neighborhoods inside one of the most well-protected cities in Iran. If they don't make a larger response than they did on April 13th, they kind of look bad in the eyes of all the people they fund. Iran kind of has to be performative at this point. They're funding all these groups and directing them and giving them orders. But if they go out like a punk on this and don't respond strongly to Israel and directly to Israel rather than through proxies, they suddenly lose credibility with the folks they're sending out to do their dirty work. And those folks might say, why am I doing this for them if they don't even respond when Israel slaps them across the face? So I would anticipate some sort of a massive retaliation, which runs the risk of things spiraling out of control, because once something blows up in Israel, Israel's going to be forced to respond. And our president has committed us to actively fighting against Iran in favor of Israel. He said this yesterday. So this does draw the risk of drawing in everyone. Not forget, as I point out regularly, there are American, British, and French Marine task force right off the shore. There's a pretty strong naval blockade there. And all of those things are at risk during an Iranian retaliation. And Iran's words were Israel and her supporters. That would mean us. So.
Yeah, I would go. So I would say not slap them across the face, but slap them across the face and then threw them down the stairs.
Oh, absolutely.
Is what they did. And so if they don't respond directly, that goes absolutely. And when you think like ego, right? Like somebody can't handle their ego being challenged sometimes. Well, Iran absolutely is being ego checked on this. And so they're in the position where in order to save face, they're going to have to respond directly.
100%.
Now, when they responded directly against the last thing that happened, what happened? They dropped a couple rockets in and around some Israeli air bases in the Negev desert, which essentially meant nothing. So I don't know what Iran is really going to be able to do. Now, I think they will use some of those proxy attacks, and I think they will strike asymmetrically outside of the Levant area.
Absolutely.
but that will be secondary to the kind of show attack that they do against.
Correct. I think we'll see a lot of asymmetric attacks throughout the wider Western world, but we will also have to see a direct military on military engagement for Iran to save face.
That's going to be the problem, because when you're counterattacking because somebody else somewhere else, you can do this, whether anybody likes it, performative missile strike at Israel, the most missile protected strip of land on Earth, and say, see, but we did things. And not only does it need to escalate, but the serious question is going to be, how effective do they think the escalation needs to be?
Right.
Because if it's, oh, we're going to fire 100 missiles and blow up the nearest warehouse with nobody in it, and for whatever reason they find that to be acceptable, then this might not get ridiculous very quickly.
Well, it's funny you should say that.
Yeah.
So Iran is not the only group that had a reason to respond to Israel. So right before they killed the Hamas leader in Tehran, they blew up the military leader so Nasrallah's right-hand military advisor, Khalid Shakur, Tupac's cousin.
So now that Fuad Shakur has been killed, there is a Tupac of Shakurs in hell.
That's right. So reports are emerging that Hezbollah has fired at least 60 rockets into northern Israel. So this is Hamas's direct response to the death that occurred. So, I mean, let's be honest, Israel's on a roll this week.
They are. But we also have to remember that inserted in the middle of all of this, them schwacking Shakur, and I use that term just for Ron, Shakur and Hanaya, in the middle of that, the U.S. struck several leaders of Kataib Hezbollah
in Iraq.
So Iran is having a really bad week.
Yeah. This is not, you're wondering if your IRGC subscription service is probably not well thought out right now. If you're a supporter of Iran within Iraq.
I mean, did we pay that bill yet this month? Maybe we should have.
Maybe.
Right to you.
Right. Or right to your roof. Anyway, so I just thought this was interesting because I think most of the news media that I saw actually linked this to the assassination in, but this was a separate response to a separate assassination, right?
But
and so
when you say 60 rockets are launched into southern Israel, we also call that Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so essentially it was actually, you want to show the tweet here with got a little video of rockets and whatnot. At least it gives the folks some eye candy to look at. So 60 were launched from southern Lebanon towards the western Galilee, and 15 of them were intercepted. So Iron Dome was doing its work. My understanding is they basically intercepted the ones that were coming inbound to populated areas, and most of the other rockets impacted outside of populated areas.
High quality internet service.
I know, right? You gotta love it. Anyway, so Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah, in a Thursday speech coming on the same day as the funeral of the Hezbollah commander Khalid Shakur, who was slain in an Israeli airstrike in South Beirut on Tuesday, warned that Israel has crossed all red lines. So there are no red lines left.
No more. Not just one, but all of them.
But this commits Hezbollah to basically open warfare with
Absolutely.
Israel. And thus the war has entered a new phase. The enemy and those who are behind the enemy must await our inevitable response, he said. Now, let's be honest. There are Hezbollah agents in the United States.
Absolutely.
And one of the things we're going to talk about here.
Yes, we're distracted by the AK drip.
Yeah, the AK drip, and actually you can scroll down a little bit, and you can enjoy the crink drip. Anyway, so this is absolutely something that can come to our shores.
Let me just say, if you're in a security detail and you have a folding stock AK, you are obligated under the rule number 1 of always looking cool to fold the stock.
Fold the sort of rule of cool, right? And not for effectiveness, but just for
cool factor.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right. But anyway, the point is what we're potentially going to see though is the United States stepping in to help Israel once this attack occurs, and that will then basically make us part and parcel.
That's not even potentially, because Joe Biden committed to it yesterday.
And we're going to talk about that here in a second. Let's see. I just want to see if there's anything more really to cover on this.
Well, he also said those who support Israel. So we know who he's talking about there. He just didn't want to say it out loud because he was afraid that then his roof would cave in. So he was talking about the United States and Great Britain.
Hey, Ron, I want to get your take on this. Yeah, this Hezbollah action as a separate thing from the Iranian piece, but ultimately it's going to all be put together, right? Don't you think?
Right. It'll be a coordinated response. I mean, let's not forget about the Houthis. And you mentioned
Houthis,
earlier
right.
asymmetric warfare. I mean, the Iranians could interdict maritime traffic in the Straits of Hormuz. They could. What I worry about is they're going to overrun those small U.S. military outposts in Iraq and Syria that are kind of out there, and because Iraq is not friendly territory anymore, never really has been. But and then Syria, it's like I hope those guys have good E&E plans to make it to the Jordanian border, because that's as close as they're going to get. But so there's lots of options.
Well, if only some president had tried to, I don't know, pull us out of Syria or something, that would have been really thoughtful in advance.
Yeah,
Weird.
but you don't understand, because Mark Milley, when he came back from getting the instruction from the president, he said, what the president really meant to say was, fill in the blank.
Yeah, trust me. Speaking of the U.S. and our position on this kind of pending, attack on Israel, right? The next headline is U.S. will certainly defend Israel if attacked by Iran in wake of Hania killing. And so let's open. I don't know if we're going to be able to hear this video from Lloyd Austin. Not that I want to listen to a video of Lloyd
Why?
Austin.
Because he's talking behind his face shield?
His Darth Vader mask.
Yeah.
Give me a second. No.
Yeah. So
the way you have a
essentially,
$2,
what we're getting ready to do is commit ourselves to another Middle Eastern war. It's almost like we want to be there. So now, that being said, I've always contended that we actually do have national interest in the Middle East. The problem is how you exercise that national interest. And I don't believe committing to a full-scale war and between Israel and Iran is the best use of our national interest.
Not at all. Not at all.
Even if it is, even if that is the best plan in our national interest, roll back to 1998 or 7, and assume that the recently rebranded Mujahideen, who are very pissed off at the United States, are overtly talking about how they're going to do terrorist activities in this country, and then we're going to import tons of them. What's going to happen?
You mean the camel and ram?
Shockingly, no.
Jesus.
Right? And
Echo.
that's where we're at. They are coming through the southern border and giving interviews at the border that say we're going to blow things up in this country, and then we're going to start a war with all of the people that they are following, respected, allied to, etc. This is coming home, I guess.
Yeah.
In short.
No, that's absolutely right.
All right, we're ready.
Let's see what Austin had to say.
So the organization Israel is in fact certainly will help defend Israel. You saw us do that in April. just like to see us do that again. But we don't want to see any of that. And we're going to work hard to make sure that, we're doing things to help take the temperature and address issues diplomatic means.
Because as we all know, power of diplomatic power is recognized.
That is important.
So it's interesting to say that Lloyd Austin is doing everything he can to take the temperature down. Yet he raised the temperature of several Khatib Hezbollah members by about 1,000 degrees in under a second. So I really don't think that.
That was your best one yet, too.
Well,
No, the Tupac one was the best.
Yeah, I actually thought of the same joke. It's always better when you're unique. All right. So anyway, Iran absolutely is holding us responsible. The weapons that Israel uses are U.S. weapons. They get direct support from the U.S. logistically, many other ways. And then now we are going to be basically parking these, destroyers off the coast to help intercept missiles and that type of thing. So we will absolutely be part of this, especially in the eyes of the Iranian government. So this is the Iranian Foreign Ministry statement began. The Islamic Republic of Iran emphasizes the responsibility of the U.S. government as a supporter and accomplice to the Zionist regime in continuing the occupation and genocide of Palestinians in committing this heinous act of terrorism. And so this is, they for whatever reason, they want to draw us in. And I think that allows them to then hit us directly.
Their ability to do that, particularly in the United States, and particularly in a couple of specific geographic locations, Dearborn, that will not be named throughout the U.S. So particularly high risk.
Don, thoughts on that?
They probably want to draw us in because right at the moment, everything that our military does kind of sucks. And that is at least as much because the White House comes down and says, you have to suck. Right? And our military is pretty following orders that come out of the White House. So when we send one ship, when we should send three, when we tell them the rules of engagement are if they're not, 20% of the ship dead, you can't fire back, then they get to extract a lot of blood out of us for comparatively very little risk.
Yeah.
And now is the time, if you're Iran and you've been watching the United States, who for all of the past 50 years have been willing to say, oh, we'll just send the Marines to kill all of them, right? And we're definitely not doing that today.
Yeah.
So that's why they want us in. It's also, again, perfectly good justification to start attacks in the United States. And with the cost so low, I mean, if you've been waiting half a century to get this kind of opportunity, I can't see them trying to pass it.
If Don keeps talking this smart, you're gonna have to stop calling him Gun Bunny.
No, that's never going to happen.
oh no, not at all. Hey, but there is one bright spot, Don. Hey, Scott, there is one bright spot, Don. I mean, talking about the state of our military, is the commander of U.S. Central Command, General Killamal Karela, is the guy in charge, and he's a very aggressive commander, and he's already took Lloyd Austin to the woodshed a couple of times with his leaked memo to Austin saying, "Hey, this tit for tat crap in the Red Sea, it's not working, and it's wasting valuable resources." So, not that he has a lot of ass to back himself up, but
Ryan, I mean, we've talked.
I'm done.
We've talked a lot on our show about the failures of CENTCOM, specifically the Navy, in the Red Sea with the Houthis, right? From everything I've heard, that's really being managed out of the Pentagon, so that they've been, basically fighting with both hands handcuffed behind their backs. I just hope that doesn't happen. Say again?
We're back to the days of Robert McNamara.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, the only prosperity that Prosperity Guardian has guarded is Houthi missile prosperity.
Production, yeah.
And Houthi ship ransom prosperity, because the Houthis do offer to not blow up your ship if you would make a small donation to the Houthi Endowment Fund.
Yes, right. Tax deductible, for sure. Yes, for me, the thing that really kind of scares me in all this, as far as the ultimate blowback on the U.S. from Iran v. Israel situation, is the blame gets assigned, and then essentially terrorist attacks are used as an asymmetric response to the U.S. Now, I don't know if that's the smartest thing for them to do. That doesn't mean they won't do it.
Oh, correct, 100%.
I mean, you want to guarantee Donald Trump, more so than you already done, attack us with terrorists before the presidential election.
I know that it allows them to save face and lets them bloody the nose of someone, but it does go directly against their own political interests to do it just ahead of a U.S. election. But while we're on the topic of future conflict, since I'm out of arm's reach of Mrs. Tactical Wisdom, I'm going to take a sip from this Monster can, and I'll have that future conflict when I get home. Carry on.
Very good.
Well, we've been discussing violent extremism in the Middle East this morning.
Now it's time to talk about it in the domestic context. We've had people we know been labeled by the feds as domestic violent extremists. Logos associated with people that we're associated with have been used. I didn't want to do it more than once. But
and NC Scouts as well.
Right. And of course, this is all projective, right, by the federal government, specifically the FBI, in saying, like, these are the kind of people we're worried about when it comes to domestic violent extremists in the U.S., right? And for the most part, it's been far right, Christian, anti-abortion. What are some of the other militias?
People who can. People who are over, as they worded in the
firearms owners.
People singing church songs in their church parking lots.
Right. People who are overly concerned with preparedness.
Anti-vaxxers.
Yeah. Those who believe the Constitution should be adhered to. These are all actual things on the DHS thing.
Schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the kind of picture that's been created by the powers that be within the administrative state that have, these are the enemies they want. But the problem is they haven't been able to find a lot of these kind of enemies out there.
Chat wants to know, it's Friday.
Yeah.
We are talking about a domestic segment.
Yeah.
Do we want to shut them all to Rumble?
Would only be one chat to monitor.
We can.
All right. So, chat, if you haven't done so already, please make your way over to Rumble. I'm going to be dropping the link into the.
Gives us a 1-minute intermission.
Yeah, he does. It gives us a minute break. Well, I just want to, if you're a YouTube watcher and you're not going to join us on Rumble, we appreciate your patronage. We'll be going live more this weekend, probably randomly. So it'll just be popping up and sometimes it'll just be from a cell phone. So we will keep you guys informed as best we can. If you want to continue to watch the show, hit the link with Rumble. I assume it's in the chat by now. Probably Daisy Williams is sitting there sharing the link prior to us even saying anything about it. So thank you, Daisy. So we will see you over there. Don, final thoughts for the YouTube crowd?
Get off YouTube in general.
Yes.
To Rumble.
Yes. Joe?
Yeah, get off YouTube. No. Last thing is hey, if you're in the area, come out to the event. Really, you're gonna have a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will see you over on Rumble. Thanks, guys.
2, 0, 1.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone.
3, 6, 4, 6.
The chair is against the wall.
3, 6.
The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache.
8, 2, 5, 0, 9.
It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
2, 1.